should say, it's been removed from the agenda. So do I have a motion to otherwise approve the agenda as noticed?
I would like to table and discuss 9A, which is page 7 through 10, I think.
Kent's going to discuss that with
Okay.
us today. So I don't think I mean, it's on the board for discussion and action. And so he'll go ahead
Oh,
and
yeah.
discuss it.
Yeah, but on
With
page
everybody.
7, on the top of it says approval of fall budget update, but then on page, there's another page where it says approval of fall budget update. Yeah, I just want to make sure that's not,
It's not part of the consent agenda, if that's what you're.
Yeah, it's a regular board action item. So there'll be
we'll discuss
full
it.
discussion and vote on it, Shelby.
right,
All
okay.
right. Okay,
I still move we approve the agenda as
stated.
Presented,
stated, presented. Thank you.
and I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. We're doing a roll, right?
Okay, trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
So it's unanimous.
Okay, we'll move forward with recognitions, Kim.
We have one tonight. Kevin Landtubner is one of our instructors in IS. He teaches some of the cybersecurity classes and some of the other IT classes. And he is going through the certifications for Butler to become an Amazon Web Services Academy and then teach the AWS courses. He has just completed the AWS Cloud Practitioner Certificate. It's the first of 3 that he'll be required to complete. But once he does that, then he'll be able to move our students through those certification processes too. So we want to say thank you and congratulations to Kevin for the great work that he does both inside the classroom and outside, and just the extra effort that he's putting in to help gain some additional certifications to help our students as well. So congratulations to Kevin. And then we need to wish trustee Mary Martha Good. Her birthday is on the 14th of December. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
14.
14th. Yes,
14, yes.
that's what I have.
All right. Do we have any public comment? We don't have anybody here. No public comment. Moving on to the standing reports. No report on Student Government Association, as I understand it. Operational staff report, Lisa.
Good evening. So I don't have much new business to report, but we did host Jamie Sharp, the director of college health, at our last operational staff meeting. And she covered all things COVID and everything that college health offers to all of our Butler campuses. So that was really great to have her stop in for a few minutes. Our next operational staff meeting will be this Thursday, December 10th. And that's all I have for you guys. So I hope you all have a happy holidays, and I will see you next year.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Next year.
Professional employees report. We have Terry with us.
Jim, I don't have much to report. The professional employees do want to express appreciation for the board's service and leadership over the past year, and to wish the board and everyone else a happy holidays.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Happy holidays to you, Terry.
The Board Finance Committee did not have a meeting, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Foundation Board report.
Forrest probably has that, right? Forrest?
Forrest, you still with us?
I'm still with us. Hang on a second. I should have pulled that up right before. Let me get to it real quick, and I do have a little bit to share. The big thing, or I guess a couple of big things, the foundation board decided that we would unfortunately have to forego our traditional benefit auction that was scheduled for early March. The foundation is instead going with a virtual event, so we're still going to try to do something, but it'll be more, I guess, COVID friendly and not the in-person event that we've all traditionally been accustomed to. Hopefully that'll just be a 1 year off, and we'll come back to that in 2022. Foundation is welcoming several new directors to the board. John Blickenstaff, who's the president of J&H Trucking in Wichita, also an 85 Butler grad, is coming on. Alitra Cheney Prophet, who's the director of career services at Butler, is coming on. Nelson Mosley, who is the chief of police in Rose Hill and also a 1991 Butler alum, is going to be coming on the board. Betsy Redler, a community volunteer in Wichita, and Jay Staley, who is the president of Interim Healthcare in Wichita, is coming on the board. He is also a Butler alum from 1982. So excited to have a very diverse group of additional directors coming on. And then finally, the 2020 financial audit of the foundation's books was completed by our outside accountants, and that audit came back clean. So as of June 30th of 2020, the assets of the foundation were at just above $15 million, which is a little increase from the prior year.
Okay.
That's
Thank
all I
you,
have.
Kirsten. Anything you wanted to add, anything?
No,
Okay. All right.
thank you for asking.
KECCT update. Mary Mark.
Thank you, Jim. We had a great meeting on Saturday morning. They have proposed their legislative priorities for this next year. Some of the ones that I wanted to go over with you are the Kansas Promise Scholarship Act. I think this is something that needs to be put in there. It's so neat. If you apply for a scholarship and you get your Pell Grant, you get your scholarships, sometimes that will go towards your housing, but which is great because if parents can't afford housing, they can use the excess of those scholarships to pay for it. Well, the Promise Act also helps usually lower middle class families to apply for this scholarship and get a few more dollars to help get that degree earned. Now, there are some different things to it. There's lots of states that already have this, but I think, am I on the right track, Dr. Kroll, that this is just a kind of a Band-Aid to help those people who really can't afford college, but yet after they apply for Pell,
Yeah.
all the other scholarships, it could help them get their degree.
They call it last dollar lots of times, and so they have to access all their other scholarships and all their other aid, and then if there's still a gap, then Kansas Promise Act would help.
Also, we talked a little bit about, KBOR had this lovely committee, and we were invited to be on the committee. Nancy Ingram and Heather were both our representatives on that committee, correct, Kim?
Yes.
And it was a great committee. The only thing is what's going to be done with the information after this committee, because it's over with now. And there were several letters written about the statement, and I do hope the legislature will listen and work on that. They have to remember that we are not funded as regent colleges. The other one, and Shelby, you might even be familiar more with this than anybody, I don't know, since you have college age kids, but that's that darn FAFSA. Have you filled that out yet for your college kids? We filled it out when our children were going through. It's hairy. It's not fun. It takes you more than an hour to fill out, but hang on here, I'm getting to it. I enjoyed the comments on it, Dr. Kroll, after they started talking about the FAFSA. You know, a lot of the trustees had applied for it, or their kids had, and it's not any fun, guys.
What's the acronym?
It's the
Federal-
federal financial aid
Uh-huh.
document that you fill out that helps identify
People
family
qualify.
income and financial need. And you have to fill it out if you want to try and apply for Pell Grants or student loans from the federal level.
And
It's
they go
lengthy.
by it. They don't
Very
go by
cumbersome.
anything else. It's not fun to fill out, but they were talking about the FAFSA, and I can't find my notes. I'm going through this really quick,
You're saying
guys.
FAFSA? Or
FAFSA,
just FFA?
FAFSA.
Yeah.
I know it sounds weird, like I have a
I've got
list, but
deaf
it's
old man
FAFSA.
ears too, and I don't hear well, so.
Well, it's just, they just made a statement that, it's just getting harder to fill out and people give up on it. They do. It's too much for them. You have to have all of your tax returns and anyway. So I cannot find it right now. Dr. Kroll, do you have anything about it? It was
Well,
just a statement that,
Yeah, what they're talking about, one of the recommendations may be that it's required for every high school senior in the state of Kansas to fill it out, junior or senior to fill it out, because they consider it to be an access issue or access concern potentially because it's cumbersome to fill out. You have to have tax information. And so a lot of families don't fill them out. A lot of families that don't have need don't fill them out because they aren't going to qualify. But they see it as higher ed council sees it as an opportunity maybe to help create access for students so that they would understand what they might be able to qualify for as far as federal aid. And so there's some discussion about requiring it for every high school student that's graduating.
parents
So,
will complain.
Yeah, they will.
WSU offers the Saturday morning on how to fill it out for
Wow.
Yeah,
every
we do
junior
those
and senior.
too.
Do you?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just,
Yeah, we do
It's-
multiple ones during the year.
I went through several Saturdays.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not fun. So get ready for it, Shelby, because these kids need it. And, I know that we qualified for some, but it wasn't enough to even,
Make it worthwhile.
yeah.
Remember doing that back in 92. I'm
Yes.
sure it's different now.
Yes, it is. So any questions? That was the majority of our meeting. It lasted about an hour and 45 minutes. And Heather gave a great presentation. She's our liaison up there in Topeka. So hopefully we'll be able to make a trip up there
Yeah,
next
we'll
year.
see.
See, talk to some legislators. So thank you.
Anything else you want to add, Kim?
No, I'll tell you a little bit about the president's meeting was on Monday, and I can tell you a little bit about that through my
Okay.
report here.
Well, you're up.
Oh, I am up. Okay, good. So students finished out the semester in good shape. All the finals and stuff were done by Thanksgiving time, and so it's gotten pretty quiet on campus, but that's nice. Our COVID numbers dropped precipitously the next week after everybody was off campus, and they'll be home for a long winter break, and so we feel like we ended the semester in good shape, and a lot of institutions moved their students to remote between Thanksgiving and Christmas to finish up their finals, and we're obviously really glad that we made the decision early on to just be completely done. We have a lot of students that have access issues, that don't have computers, that don't have internet, and we just didn't want them to have to struggle with the last week or 10 days of the semester. So I told you last month that I was going to try and schedule a legislative luncheon for the first part of December. And I put that on hold. I think it's just too risky to gather people together right now. And so I've had some conversation just today when I was at El Dorado Chamber meeting. We want to try and do a Saturday morning coffee or something, after the legislature gets back into session, and try and bring maybe even a smaller group than what we've done before. But Chamber's talking about it, the school district always talks about it. And so we'll try and partner and see if we can't do something like that, and get something in place after session starts. I know a lot of you are aware, just from listening to the news, this is just a little bit of tidbit of information. Kansas is not unique in the fact that the state has been slammed with fraudulent unemployment claims, just happening all across the nation, and certainly happening in Kansas. And they think that some of it's related to the Equifax breach of data a few years ago, that's when people got a hold of the data. But thought you would be interested in knowing that Butler has had 143 fraudulent claims since August on employees. There's 2 that just came in this week that are pending still, but it's taken a lot of our HR folks' time to start to, at least, just to mitigate, to submit those as fraudulent claims. We get a case number that we keep, and then we get to do the process of, trying to get a hold of the credit card companies and whatever we want to do to try and, protect our credit rating and get card numbers changed and cancel things and stuff like that. But our folks have dealt with a lot of that since August.
You had any unemployment claims?
Have I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the list.
Where-
We have,
It's like,
no,
wow.
we've been able to catch them. Kathy
Okay.
Connor gets that notification and she's on top of them right away. It was interesting because when mine came through, the letter that came through, she sent all the information to me, and probably within a day or two, I got a letter at my home then from the Department of Labor, I guess it would be, that showed how much potentially would be paid in unemployment and, you know, all of these numbers and everything. And I was like, Kathy, what do I do with this now? Because it looked like they were in the process of, you know, moving it forward, and they just can't keep up with the legitimate ones as well as the, you know, the fraudulent ones.
It's
And
a
so,
real hassle to
yeah.
unwrap it, too.
so I just wrote across it. She said, right across it, this claim is fraudulent. Do not process, do not move forward on this, and send it back to them. And haven't heard anything since, but I keep watching my, you know, my accounts and stuff. So anyway, but I thought just here, we've had 143 since August. I think Lance, you did the welcome for the board for the nurses pinning. Thank you for doing that. They did a virtual nurses pinning on the 24th, and we videotaped my comments and Lori's comments and your comments. And so thank you for representing the board. We're still working on one of the things that the president spent quite a bit of time on Monday talking about when the presidents met was securing the money through the state Spark task force to help us be able to purchase COVID testing and processing for the spring. We're going to have to ramp up our testing probably, and every county is different and every county's resources are different. And, you know, some counties are supplying testing and processing to the community colleges. Some of them are not. Some of them are only supplying it to folks that are symptomatic. So it's really kind of all across the board. But, you know, working with the state Spark task force to secure a couple of $1 million more that will come to the community colleges to help us purchase testing and pay for processing. We certainly know that our students in allied health and our nursing students are going to have to be tested regularly as they go into clinical settings. And the hospitals and the nursing homes are not going to have the money to be able to provide those. And so we're going to have to provide the tests for that group of students. We'll be doing testing, probably random testing of our athletes as they start their spring games, and potentially just random testing on students that volunteer as well. So
Dr. Kroll,
working on that.
processing too? Processing those?
We would not be processing
Okay. you would
processing
send
them here. We would be able to provide the tests through College Health, but you have to send them off for processing. And right now there's a discrepancy between what the COVID funds can cover. Do they buy just the kit and then we have to pay for the processing, or does it pay for the kit, the actual supply, and then the processing piece? So that's what they're trying to get figured out right now. The president's also talked about the legislative agenda, and work that we want to message that we want to refine and be able to, you know, put in kind of a concise format that we can share with all of our legislators moving forward. The Board of Regents always does their own legislative agenda, and they will include the community and technical colleges in some of that, but oftentimes the community college system does our own legislative agenda. We have some good friends in the legislature that understand the value of the work that the two-year sector does, and so it's always good to be able to share with them specifically what our focus is. And one of the things that we continue to believe is really, really critical is that we need the state to continue to fund Excel and CTE for the high school students. That's Governor Brownback's initiative a few years ago that people know of as SB 155, where the high school students can take a certain group of career and technical courses tuition free. We offer those courses, send in the enrollment, and then the state reimburses us for that enrollment. So we really offer them before we get paid for them. And so our goal every year is to try and help the legislature understand how important it is to fully fund Excel and CTE for us. And then Julie asked last month about the software, any of the other software that had been purchased to assist with COVID related things, because we were talking about Honor Lock. And the only software that's specifically been purchased related to COVID mitigation and very specifically for that purpose was the Honor Lock. All the other software that we've, purchased or that you've seen go across your, board book have been continuing contracts or service agreements or things that we've had in place or things that were already in the works even before we had to deal with COVID. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. I'd answer questions if you've got some. Oh, I'm sorry, one other thing. One of the other things that Heather Morgan has requested, or that information that she's requested, we're continually submitting updates to our COVID expenditures and CARES Act funding and all of that sort of stuff. But one of the things that she's recently asked for is information that helps understand the impact on salaries for all of us. With CARES funding, with the Spark funding, we can count all of the salaries of our college health folks, 100% of their salaries. We can add that up and see what that is. Public safety are the two categories specifically where we can look at all of that salary that's been committed since COVID has come into play. Critical incident management team's been meeting, since March, and we can calculate the number of hours that we've met and what those salaries of the people sitting around the table are. We can count the time and energy that's been put into preparing more courses to go online, and and mitigating some of the technology kinds of things for online delivery, and just Butler alone in a number of those different categories, not PPE, not any of the disinfectant, but just when we're looking at manpower and salaries and time spent, we have more than $1 million in cost in a lot of it related to personnel. So it's interesting when you start to really look at that and dig into the amount of time that people have spent. HR doing the processing for folks to be able to work remotely, to go through the process to decide if they can work remotely because of health related issues, all those kinds of things. So, did you have a question?
Do they have substitutes then? Do you have to hire substitutes when you don't have enough custodial staff?
We were, I think the only folks that we've had to hire from the outside, we had to hire in a plumber a while back to come help because we had a group of those skilled tradespeople that were quarantining. And so we had a plumbing issue. We had to hire somebody from the outside, but otherwise from a faculty standpoint and staff, we've had folks that have been able to step in, but we've had some areas where there have been some significant exposures and groups of people on quarantine, and we're a little bit worried in a couple of situations. So we've got a couple of areas where they're doing cohort based. So we've got a group of people that are in the office and a group of people that are working remotely, so that if some of our frontline folks get exposed and have to quarantine, then we've got other people that can come in. So we've got a couple of areas where they've moved to that kind of work pattern. So
That's great.
yeah, we'll get through it. It's got to abate at some point in time. Yeah.
Herd immunity eventually, but it also looks like sports are going to get going back normal-ish.
Well, yeah,
That-
not quite normal-ish, but they're going to start. Yep, we're starting basketball. The Jayhawk Conference presidents met a week ago to start through. There's a protocol manual that they're putting together, guidelines for everything, and then guidelines for each individual sport. And we were on the phone for about 4 hours a week ago on Monday, starting through the first part of those guidelines. We're going to start. There's some really specific guidelines in place for what we can and can't do. We're not going to have fans for the first few weeks. We'll through the first week of February, I think, no fans, and then we'll reassess the situation. But people have to be socially distanced. They have to screen and temperature tests and all kinds of things. So yeah, we're going to give it a shot.
So Dr. Kroll, that means no family members can come watch their
No,
child?
not to start off with.
Did you
We'll
know,
live stream everything, so they'll be able
Right.
to watch. but-
did you know the Kansas Association of Athletics, they voted today to allow, what is it, one parent,
Oh, did they?
two parents,
Yeah,
two parents in?
A week ago. or
I knew
2
they
weeks
were
ago, they voted not
going back to
allow
vote
it.
again.
Excuse me?
Yeah,
They voted initially not to allow anybody.
yeah, and it was appealed.
Right, but they appealed it today,
And so now they're going to allow 2 per
Yeah.
athlete.
athlete, yeah.
Has to be a parent or a guardian.
We're gonna, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll see how it works out. So anyway, that's what I have to
But
report.
no spring football,
No,
Yes.
yes.
there will be. spring
Everything, football, volleyball,
Right.
rest, everything. Yeah, baseball, softball.
It's
soccer.
going to be wild.
It
It will
is.
be. Our home football games are on Sunday afternoons,
Oh, that'd
or
be
Sundays,
good.
I think. I don't know if they're afternoon, I think they're afternoons, so. But yeah, there's games just about every day of the week. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I
Any other
still don't,
questions for
well,
Kim?
the only thing is, I'm gonna say this one more time, I still can't believe we can't get spark funds on BG Stadium. After all.
Well, I don't know
the-
what we would, why we would use them. You can only use them for certain kinds of lost revenue. I mean,
It seems like we would have lost revenue.
well, we did, but I mean, even some of the revenue streams that we talked about here with lost ticket sales for theater and all that sort of stuff, we ended up not being able to count those. We can count the revenue, because we kept a couple of our apartment buildings open so we could move students over there if they needed to be quarantined. We can count that loss, but we weren't able to count losses in ticket sales or events on
Custodial?
campus or anything like that.
No
so.
custodial or security.
No, we could count security salaries, and from a custodial perspective, we could, of course, count all the disinfectant and the PPE that we had to get, but not lost wages, or, ticket sales or anything like that, so.
Wonder if it's because they were part-time employees, or usually that take the tickets and do the concession stands. I'm just drawing that
Student
out.
workers and, yeah, don't know. It's, those are all federal and state guidelines, so we have to follow those.
If you can figure them out.
Yeah, they are fluid, I'll tell
They
you.
are something else.
The EFAB report, I'll take a shot at this. We met last week and we did approve a policy and procedure for considering and approving capital improvements, because we kind of had a loosey-goosey sort of system, but it never really was in writing. And now
4
we have,
years ago, yeah.
yeah, so we have it laid out very nicely as if anybody wants to do any kind of capital improvement, whether it's an outside people like the beautification project, or whether it's, something we need to do the track or the field or whatever it may be, that we now have that laid out on how we'll evaluate it, look at it, and run it through the system for approval. We did a lot of talk about, a lot of discussion about the future maintenance needs, because they're continuing to go up, the routine maintenance on the stadium, especially some capital improvement things that we're going to need in the future, like how much time we have left on that grass before it needs to be replaced in the stadium, the turf. How much time do we have left before we have to resurface the track? How long is that scoreboard going to last? Because it's getting towards the end of its life. And what's it going to cost to refurbish those? What's it going to cost to replace them? And we're looking at those as some pretty serious capital improvements that we need to know a little bit more about. What are the cost proposals? How much life is left in those, and things such as that. So we're putting out feelers to people to get some bids and some estimates on how long that stuff's going to last and what it's going to cost to replace it. And Kim and others have been working on a pretty comprehensive plan of putting this all together in the stages that need to be done, where the remainder of the board will be looking at, what are our resources? Where do we get our money from? Advertising, skyboxes, things of that sort. Can we get some money from the foundation? What fundraisers do we need to do to sort of fit into this package of what's it going to cost to meet all of these future needs So hopefully we can minimize any contribution that the college needs to make, because you have to remember the significance of this is the college contributes a significant amount of money to that stadium to operate and for yearly maintenance and things of that sort. So that's really kind of what the board's up to. They've got quite a task to quite an endeavor to work on. Did I miss anything? Pretty much.
No, that, yeah,
It's an overview
just
kind of what we're doing. It's pretty, things are getting towards the, what, 10 years now? Is that
yeah,
right?
it's, was opened in 2012. Yeah, so we're about, we're in our ninth year in, so.
Tell me again the breakdown of who pays for that stadium from
It's
the
a-
beginning?
It's a partnership between the city and the school district and the college.
Based on usage.
Yeah.
Do they,
Yeah.
okay, if that means we're obligated for 33.33%?
No, it's a.
Allocated based on usage.
Yeah. So
So
anytime.
who uses it the most?
What we do. We do. There's a certain, a scheduling software that we use. And so if we would practice over there, any of the games that we have over there, they chart all of those for the school district and the college. And then if the city holds events, and then the annual maintenance that we have for the last number of years, the total, because we've got, insurance that we have to pay and elevator maintenance and all those kinds of things. And so the three entities together contribute about just over $52,000 a year, I think, towards that maintenance. And then it's split up on a percentage basis based on your percent use at the stadium, your
Now,
home games.
Does Ken keep that?
No, the E EFABC board keeps that information.
I think
It's
I'd
a
like to
scheduling,
I
it's
think I'd like
scheduling
to see
software.
a copy of how that's been allocated, if you don't
I
mind.
can show it to you. Yeah, we get an annual report every year that shows the percent usage
That'd be
between the three
great.
partners.
Maybe a couple years worth.
Do you have any other questions about EFAB, what it does and how it operates? And the predicament we're in right now, a lot of expenses in the future. Putting that turf down, it's not cheap. And resurfacing track and all that, it's very expensive. Hopefully, things the resources and maybe increasing skyboxes and an advertisement and some additional funding, fundraisers that we can get that cost allocated out without having to tap into any of the three entities too heavily, if at all. Okay, monitoring reports. I understand there are none. Strategic discussion issues, opportunities, none. So we're moving on to the board action items. First one being approval of the fall budget update. I think we have Kent on the horns. I think there's probably some discussion that everyone's interested in having about that, but we must first have a motion to approve and a second before we move on to discussion. We have a motion to approve.
I have a point of
I don't
order
even
question,
vote
I
yet.
guess.
I
would
We're
vote
just doing a motion,
just-
you guys.
I know, but at the beginning, I specifically want to talk about this before we vote to just approve it.
Yes.
You're not voting
We're
to
not voting
approve
yet.
it. You're doing a motion and a second,
To
and
approve
then
it.
discussion,
Then we vote.
and then you could decide whether you're approving it or not. That's the way Robert's Rules of Order
Just
go.
following Robert's rules.
Yeah.
I can table and discuss without,
Well,
Yes, we would like to
motioning to-
table it.
well, okay, well, we'll go this way. I can ask something to strike or table item. Okay,
So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, well, then we'll move on to discussion. And open the floor up to any questions you all have before there'll ever be any vote here. I understand you might have some
Yeah.
questions, Shelby, and
Yeah.
it's available to answer, I hope.
I have quite a few.
No, Kent,
Yes.
Shelby, you emailed Will Johnson at the county with some of
Yes,
your
that's something
questions.
separate, but we can
Okay.
get that first. We got,
Do we have Kent on?
Yes, I'm here.
You can do the,
Okay.
Yeah,
you can do the Will Johnson thing first. That's a
No,
good
let's
idea.
do the budget because it's on the agenda.
I think it's gonna affect that.
I don't think it matters, it just, we got our tax statement, or I got a bunch of tax statements. And we approved our mill levy of 14,420,000.
Mhm.
And the county sent it out as 14,489, which is $69,000 higher. So I know when we approve a set amount of budget, 14,4, and it comes in at 14,89, those don't jive, and the mill levy adjusts, so we hit the 14,4. Long story short, the 14,489 from the county is wrong. So it was raising all sorts of red flags that our maximum budget raised and our mill levy raised, which that should not be possible mathematically. And it's like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. So I emailed him. He's like, it's fine. They've moved. Then later I called him. He's like, oh, I think we made a mistake. So he just sent an email like an hour ago, and they hand tabulated some stuff, and the county's Butler's numbers and the county's numbers on everyone's property tax statements are wrong. And they're trying
That's
to
good
figure
to
out.
know.
Well, supposedly they're collecting the right amount of taxes,
Oh.
but what they're telling us they're collecting is wrong, and he thinks it's wrong for last year. So Julie got some number on a website. I don't even remember what it was. Didn't match up. And then I looked at this and that didn't match up. So I'm like, hey, what? So I called my county commissioner and he's like, well, ask Will. And he's like, don't worry about it. And he's like, well, wait a second. Because I sent him a picture of this number and then our number. Like all the numbers can't change or it just doesn't work. And he's like, oh, okay. So he looked through some stuff. So that was
So
that
are they
whole
sending
weird-
out updated tax statements then?
I don't know what they're
There
going to
was
do.
a
He just
delay
heard about
a
it a
week.
couple hours ago.
There was a delay a week ago. I think,
Yeah, we
with
just-
tax statements.
These are
We're
due the
supposed to come
20th
out a
and we
week
just
ago,
got
but
them last night. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you raised me 63% on where I live.
But Butler County is not the only one. Sedgwick
Yeah,
County made a
yeah.
terrific error on the school district in Rose Hill by not billing Sedgwick County.
But he
So-
said they were off 0.4 to 0.6 to 0.5. They think it's rounding errors of something internally
In the
in
program.
their calculations, or he doesn't know. And he's of the opinion like, hey, we need to know why those numbers don't match. And supposedly everything's kosher, but he's going to check that.
Okay.
But that's why I was a little
I get it.
up in arms today, because the mill number will change, but the 14,420,000 can't change because that's the max we set. But then they're like, oh, no, we had 69 grand. And you're like, you can't do that. So that was,
The mill levy will change based on the
Right, the
assessed
number of the mill, but
valuation,
not the
but
maximum
but
dollars of
the
the-
taxes that you've requested should not.
but here they said the maximum dollars are 14,489,000, and we said at 14,420,000. So it's just, they raised it 69 on the paperwork. Supposedly it's not raised to the taxpayers, but that number should be what we said.
Okay.
We're waiting for
Good,
that
thank you.
verification
Yeah.
email that explains what they've done.
Yeah, but
Good
that
find.
that was just like a red flag, which
Good find.
Julie got it off of some other number, and then I saw that number. It's like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
When he said it, don't worry about it. I'm like, no, one of these has to stay the same, either the mill number or the money number. But so that's all
Okay.
that was.
Good.
Makes sense.
A big fat nothing, but
Well, we'll know
the
more
number
though.
should be the number here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To all the taxpayers.
Great.
'Cause I had some
So we've
friends-
got Kent then too, right?
Does anybody have any questions for Kent? Any further discussion on this?
Where is he?
Well, he's zooming.
Yeah, I'm here, sir.
There he is.
My main question is, when we approved the budget, we were presented from Dr. Kroll, like, hey, we're gonna do some furloughs, $400,000, help
It
pay
was
the
a
thing.
potential recommendation. Yeah.
I know, but then we
voted on
set the mill levies, we did the budget. I mean, Forrest even said furloughs are a good idea. We passed the budget. Mary Martha said, hey, we're making cuts. We gotta really make some cuts. But now it's like 3 months later and it's like, we'll just take that $400,000 of furloughs out of our cash and just forget about it. And our mill levy cuts, 500,000. It's just, if we come to next budget and say, hey, we got to raise our mill levy back up to pay for 500,000, I just don't like publishing the budget to the public, republishing the budget to the public. They saw it, we discussed it, we approved it, we approved the furloughs. We
I
approved
don't
it,
know.
and now it's kind of changing back. And we're in a time where we should protect that cash we have.
Dr. Kroll will obviously speak to this more intelligently than I, but furloughs usually hurt the people that make the least amount of money.
Right.
Page 7.
That was
And
Starts after the.
So I personally
action
don't want to
items.
Right.
hurt those individuals
my
who make the least
suggestion would
amount of
be
money.
Keep trying to move
Table
forward.
that line, come back to us next month with your proposal how to pay for that. Either Vice President's on up, take some pay cuts, or we get serious and talk about McConnell finally. We need to pay for that, not just throw our cash at it. I mean, if you want to make that cut, it's not a cut, it's a, however you want to look at it.
Shuffling.
Yeah.
I want to clarify something that Shelby said. I did not recommend furloughs. My comment was at the time we had this discussion back in June, there were unemployment benefits that were available for people who were laid off or furloughed. And if we
Oh,
could
that's
take advantage of those, that would be helpful.
wonderful.
We weren't able to take advantage of them. So that was not a blanket Forrest recommending we should furlough people.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
And Kent will tell you, but I think it's important for you to understand that when we do that budget in August, we provide updates to you throughout the year. We bring a fall update. You're going to see a March update with different numbers, because when we provide that August update to you, or at that point in time, we don't have our enrollment numbers yet. And we don't know what's come in for tuition and fees for sure. A lot of what's in that August budget that you approve is an estimate. And we refine that as we go along. So when we brought this information back to you in November, there were differences. When we bring it back to you again in March, there will be updates again as well, because we're further through the budget year.
Right.
But we're still staying within our budget spending authority, that you guys approve the legal budget, which tells us that we can't spend beyond that amount, but it still gives us flexibility within the operational budget to make changes. And Kent can explain it, as well, but we're going to continue to bring updates to you as that information becomes more and more refined throughout the year.
I understand the updates, but my position, we as a board govern this college. You and all the VPs work for us. We approve that at your recommendation. And then last month we get the heads up of like, we decided it's not fair, so we don't want to do it now. But that's not what we as a board approved. I think you need which is what tonight is. Tonight's our approval of you doing that. But I think it needs to be paid for with some other funds than just our cash.
If I could just give you a little perspective from how that decision was made, you are correct. You do set the operating budget, which the administration has to live by. Our recommendation, when we talked about this, we looked at a couple of things, and one of them that really stood out for us was the estimated unspent budget that we've projected. And you can see on page 8 of your board book, we're using an estimated unspent budget of $1,096,000. Last year, and that's about 2%. Last year was about 3%, so about $500,000 more than that. And as we looked at that and weighed that against the furloughs, knowing that the cost of the furloughs for the employees is significant, it's our recommendation that we do add that money back to the budget. Don't take the furloughs. At this point, it's going to be very difficult to take them anyway. And our thought was that we'll probably end up with more unspent budget, which is going to offset that anyway. There's a couple of things that have come to light since that recommendation. One is that we don't think we're going to get a cut from the state this year. That's obviously not set in stone yet. And we had built in about a $1.5 million cut from the state. So a lot of our conversation centered around, okay, it's one thing to talk to our employees and justify a furlough and the effects that would have on morale. If we really think that we're going to end up the year with only underspending the budget by 1.1 million and no 1.6 million cut from the state. And so as we weighed some of these factors, we thought the best recommendation at this time, and that's what we're asking you to approve as a board, is the recommendation to not take the furloughs. And that does show up on page 10 where they're added back in. So that's the rationale that I gathered from our discussion at the VP meeting.
Okay. Well, not trying to hurt teachers, but I just see on page 8, cash of 2.4 million, and then after tonight, cash of 628 on hand. But since I've been here, it's like, hey, we need a hardened data service room. We don't have time for second bid. We shoot that money. We want this, we want that. We build new buildings, we do new stuff. Oh, now we have tons. I mean, you're already prepping us for all this maintenance that we have coming up as our capital outlay mill levy of 189 is sunsetting. The taxpayers, they've paid their 15 million over the last few years. We need to, if we want to put this back in the budget, I'd like to see it paid for somehow and not just taken out of cash.
Well, does the lack of the cut that they anticipated from the state make up the difference? If we don't take the cut, if they don't, he budgeted less money coming from Topeka just in case. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Then why is it coming off of $1.5 million coming off of our cash? I guess.
Well, we didn't build in the additional money back from the state in the November board update. We will, in all likelihood, add back $1.6 million at the March update, the spring update, it as state revenues. We believe that the state revenues in March, the estimate will be 1.6 million higher than the November estimate. We just have better information now. We also think that it's likely that we will receive more in local taxes than we put in because we built in about an 8% additional delinquency rate because we were told early on back in, April and May that there would likely be a lot of non-collections on local taxes. We think that that's probably not going to be the case, but we're going to wait until January when we receive our first payment to see how those collections are coming in. So we do think that the revenues will go up at the March update, especially what we're hearing from the state, and that's 1.6 million for us from the state.
We have to wait for that for sure. The governor has to present her budget. And so she will, she'll present her budget right about the time that the legislature comes into session. And so we'll know that for sure. But that's certainly what we're hearing from resources at the at the state level is that she won't implement that cut this time around. So, so again, when we, you put that budget together in August and July and August, there's a lot of things that are variables at that point in time. So
I have a question for Kent.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Mary Martha.
There you are. Kent, what's usually the delinquent rate on our taxes per year?
It's around probably less than 2%.
And that's stable for the last 10 years, maybe?
Yeah, it's yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Kent.
Yes, ma'am.
What I got from the courthouse as far as the certificate, you know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
that was on file. It looks like the hearing notice was based on a valuation of the county, that the county assessed of 808 million. And did you have any clue that it would only be 800 million?
No,
I
and
mean, there's a lot of difference. That's quite a percent of difference. I
right.
thought.
When we publish the notice of public hearing, it speaks to that. It says that you actually are setting the maximum expenditures.
I get it.
You're levying a particular amount of taxes, and then it speaks to the mill levy rate, saying that's an estimate based on the estimated valuation. The county clerk gives us, by statute, they certify us an estimated valuation on July 1. That's the amount of valuation that we use. And then in October, they come in with a final valuation. So we have no control over those numbers. We use the numbers that they give us.
So she reported to you in July, it was 800.8
Yeah,
million.
she reported
then-
the estimate. She certifies an estimate at that time.
And that was the estimate, 808 million
Yes,
back in July?
yes.
Okay, and so the recent estimate as of October update is only 800
That's the actual.
million.
That's the actual.
Okay. Now, right. So I wonder how many other entities that are taxed are in this predicament?
All of
Because
them.
I was disappointed. I was
Yeah.
I would like to, I need to verify that, I guess. I was very disappointed to see the mill levy actually crawl back up.
Yeah, it happens every year. It can go up or down depending on the valuation, the actual valuation compared to the estimated valuation.
I understand
Can I
that.
ask I've got a question when Julie's finished.
Go ahead.
Kent, if I understand, going back to Shelby's point, am I correct in understanding that our unspent budget turned out to be more than what we initially expected?
Last year it did, and we anticipate it will this year. We think we took a very conservative stand to say that it's only going to be 2%. That's how we came up with the $1,096,000 estimate. And just based on our experience over the first part of the year, we're not traveling. We've been able to offset a lot of expenses with federal money. So we do believe there's a very good chance, it's not given, but we think there's a good chance that it will come in more unspent budget than what we put in there.
And that's part of the justification then for why we don't feel like we need to do the furloughs?
Yes, that was a definite part of our discussion at the VP meeting when we decided not to do the furloughs.
And I guess, Shelby, why is that not, I mean, it sounds like what the college has done is what you're talking about, which is we need to identify how we're paying for this $400,000 savings that's now not being realized the way we thought. And it sounds like the expected unspent budget delta is going to cover some of that. Is that not satisfactory to you?
No, I mean, last year we had, at our audit, we had 2.9 million, and I had asked Kent at that meeting, where's that money? And, $1 million of it went to the building fund, I think he said, and I'm not sure the other part. But if we just take it now, 3 months after we just got started, spend another $400,000, where are we going to be at next budget when we come around? We don't know spring enrollment yet. We don't know what's going to happen. If we want to make some cuts to pay for it, I'm happy for it. I just don't think we need to say, well, it's looking better than we thought a couple of months ago, and then just spend the money anyway. What gets me, I guess, the wrong way is we go through all this work, we have the meetings, we get the proposals, we approve it, we publish it to the public. They, I guess, approve it because they didn't yell at us too much. And then we pass it, and then 2 months later, it's like, we'll put that back in there. And then, well, what's the point of, setting the budget? I mean, this is what we decided to do 3 months ago.
Well, I would think they made an educated guess, if you will, that our revenues are going to exceed what he anticipated. So rather than cause harm to our employees with long-term negative effect, the vice president group is confident that we're going to get more revenue that will cover that cut.
I guess my position is the president and her staff said, we'll furlough those people and that's okay. That makes sense, but why not?
No, I think that was their worst case scenario. And
Yeah.
they don't
Well,
need-
let
they don't need the
the
worst case.
people under the master agreement or those not take some of the burden and spread it around. Or
Well,
now
the-
it's
the
just we don't
furloughs
have to worry about it
can't.
now.
No, they can't. The contract doesn't let them cut them.
Right.
Then we've
So it's
got
gonna
the
cut
wrong
our
contract.
custodians and our maintenance
Then
and our
what?
people that make minimum wage. And I personally I'm glad we're not going to furlough. We're going to hurt the worst, the
Right,
lowest
but
paid employees.
I'm not saying I want a furlough. I just want that paid for somehow.
I think it's going to be made up by additional revenue that was underestimated. I'm confident of that.
We're not doing, from a travel perspective, conference, all those kinds of things. So much of that stuff is virtual. We haven't traveled at all. We haven't had, hosted a lot of things on campus that would have cost us money. There's a significant amount of, I don't know, just reduction in expenditures because we're just pretty place bound right now. You think, and we've got additional employees that are working remotely. So there's some decrease in day-to-day expenditures just on campus with fewer people on campus. So, it's kind of like your own home budget. You manage it and you change it as you go through, understanding that, maybe what you do in January is a little bit different down the road, a few months down the road. But we felt like there was some flexibility within the budget to absorb that, rather than furlough our hourly folks who are our lowest paid folks, and typically, and we couldn't spread it across every one of the employee groups on campus. So,
Yeah,
because of the master agreement.
I understand that aspect of it. It's just,
I think, the other thing, Shelby, and you'll become more and more comfortable with this. You guys set the overall budget. That's the board's responsibility, is to set the overall budget, the legal budget. The administrators and the folks, the directors and the deans, and, we're responsible for the day-to-day operations and the operational part of that budget. You guys give us guidance, but we have to have the latitude to manage that operational daily budget. If you guys were involved in all of those minute decisions, we wouldn't be able to get anything done, of course.
no, I
You guys
understand
wouldn't get
that
anything
too.
done either. So we have the authority to manage that operational piece of the budget. And this is one of those decisions as we look at how things have changed and where we think we're going to have unspent budget and some of those kinds of things that we felt like was a trade-off. We didn't give people raises. There were a number of things that we really felt like this would be a detriment to our employees. The other thing that we're noticing, Shelley was just talking about it today, because there are a lot of people that are trying to hire. We have a lot of our folks that are looking and, potentially looking for higher paid jobs and things like that. And so we have to continue to try and create and maintain a culture where they feel like they're valued, that they have a good job and, good working environment. And so it's about morale as well.
No, I can understand that. We as a board didn't propose furloughing people. That was you and your team proposed that. I know we don't micromanage, but we could if we wanted to. Our personal family budgets are not the same as a public institution budget, because we don't get 60% of our taxes or budget from taxpayers. It seems like the college has expanded over the last many years while we continue to lose enrollment. And we're getting up on the breaking point of we got to make things work. And when we did the mill levy cut, and Mary's like, we got to get serious about some cuts. And that was one that was like serious. And this, I guess, comes back to like McConnell for me. It's like last year lost $200,000. Our average student attendance credit hours went down about 10. McConnell went down 55%. I don't think if anybody offered us to take on McConnell right now, hey, do you guys want to do additional work in McConnell? It's going to cost you this many hundreds of thousands of dollars a loss every year. Would we do it? Like, I don't think so. And Wichita State would take it over. And there's another university
Wichita State's already there. They're
okay,
there.
I want to get serious about getting our books in order, and like the stuff I've requested from McConnell, I would like to actually get. And let's get busy on doing this and not just say, well, I think we'll have some cash, so let's just do what we're going to do and then we'll figure it out later. But we need to really get to working on this other stuff. And if McConnell was gone, it might be like, hey, there's $400,000 for the furloughed employees. Good. And I'm not trying to hurt soldiers or anybody. I've mentioned before, you want to come to Andover? Can we say, hey, you got a scholarship, whatever you want, it's on the house. Just drive, 15 minutes. I know it's difficult for schedules, but we can't continue to to lose money at that institution. I'm just trying to not just spend money without it just seeing come out of the cash now, and hopefully that cash is there later. It looks like it might be, but we don't know. That's just my position.
Kent, this is Lance. That 400,000 was designed to be a 1 year kind of based on COVID concerns cut, correct? If we cut it from somewhere else, is the assumption is we'd either have to cut that 400,000 out of the budget kind of permanently, because we wouldn't presumably furlough people again next year and the year after that and the year after that. We'd still have to find some way to pay for it, correct?
Yes, it was intended to be a temporary 1 year cut.
Based on the potential of lost revenue that doesn't appear to materialize.
Is that because of the 3.2 million that we got from the state regarding COVID?
Well, those dollars had to be spent really, really specifically.
Right.
It covered some of our, it was able to cover some of our, loss through the student union fund. I mean, we reimbursed students for their housing contracts. It had to go back into the student union fund. It didn't come into our operational budget, but it's reduced some of our expenditures for PPE and some of those things that we would potentially be paying for out of our operational budget. So it's helped that way for sure. But those federal dollars, that initial CARES Act money, half of that went to students. And so we didn't get that. The other half, pretty specific guidelines on how it could be spent. So I think when you're talking about the 3.2 million, that's what you're talking about, right? Is that original CARES money?
Do you have it somewhere in here? I know in previous meetings we've had some kind of an accounting, but is it part of this?
No, because those CARES dollars were grant dollars. I mean, they're separate dollars. So they're not part of they're not part of our operational budget. This just shows our operational budget.
I guess at the end of the day, what I would like to do is propose that we just table line item number 8 on page 10 until next month, and then have some other proposals for some other cuts or revenue increases or something to pay for that. Instead of just saying it's coming out.
Necessarily mean that if we can't identify those cuts right now, that you're proposing that the furloughs have to stand?
When are they scheduled to happen? I mean, it's been.
Well, they'd have to happen before the end of this fiscal year.
Yeah.
That means this coming semester.
It can't happen.
Well, the end of our fiscal year.
I understand the concern about to manage the budget, but I don't think this is the right way to do it.
What would you suggest, Forrest?
I think we need to be doing what I think what Shelby's talking about, in concept, is right. We need to be looking for ways to become leaner, and we have to look for that going forward. But putting Dr. Kroll and her staff under a $400,000 gun right now in where we are right now to in the next 30 days come up with some other way to save 400 grand, or we're going to furlough employees for it. That's not the right way to approach this.
I don't think that's what Shelby's saying.
Well, I guess
I do. I think that's exactly what he's saying.
No, I don't think so.
Where I'm coming from is I guess I feel the opposite. I feel like I'm under the gun now to approve this or else, and we're kind of the same. We're the same, but opposite. I mean, if I propose that, you're under the gun, but now I'm under the gun to just throw $400,000 back on the budget because, it's end of the year and we got to do it.
But it's not necessarily going back on the budget. As Kent's talked about, we expect that we're going to achieve savings that weren't budgeted for as we move.
Revenue.
No, I get that, but I just haven't seen any real movement on any of the other cuts or savings or.
Well, we have those, Shelby. We've cut more than 50 positions or left them open and not filled. We've cut positions. We have cut expenditures. Every single one of the vice presidents went through every single budget, and we reduced travel. We reduced expenditures, office expenditures. We reduced conferences. We reduced sponsorships. We spent weeks and weeks and weeks. We came to you guys with a proposal that showed a potential reduction of almost $3 million between personnel and non-personnel, and 2/3 of that was personnel. And so those were our responsibilities to bring to you. Does that mean that every one of those things is going to happen? Because they were in different tiers. We had Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D. And the furloughs were one of the last things that we were going to do if we absolutely had to. And so we didn't bring you the individual detail with people's names and positions, because in some of those cases, those plans were not put into place because we weren't sure we needed to do that yet. And so rather than make a public statement that these positions potentially are going to be cut and you folks are going to lose your jobs, we brought you general information, which was our responsibility to do. And we've adhered to those. We've continued to leave positions unfilled. And
our budget's almost 70% personnel, so that's gonna have to happen.
That's exactly right. It
Numbers
is.
wise, I mean,
That's exactly
it just
right.
is what it is on that point.
And
I don't
but
want to
we
hurt any
have.
teachers. It's just,
We've cut positions, Shelby. We have. We've cut more than 50 positions
okay,
out
well,
of our
let's
budget.
cut some at McConnell.
Huh?
Let's cut some at McConnell.
We don't have hardly any full-time people. We have one director at McConnell that spends her time between McConnell and the
How do we
service
lose
center.
200 and some $1,000 there?
Well, we're going to bring information to you. It's a way that some of those faculty salaries get assigned to McConnell, and it gives you a little bit of a skewed perspective of the cost of McConnell. We don't have any full-time faculty at McConnell. We have no full-time faculty at McConnell. They are all full-time faculty that have other assignments, but they teach at McConnell. They maybe teach a class or two, but that we'll bring that information to you. We're digging through because we know some of the ways that those costs have been assigned to McConnell have not been accurate. So,
Well, I don't think he's talking about necessarily teaching staff. I think administrative staff should
we have
count.
one director at McConnell, and and Lori can help me. We have a couple of other folks that split their time that go between McConnell and go to the service center on Rock Road. We run really lean there. We don't have a huge amount of staff there. So
I'm open to more discussion about McConnell, but
Yeah, it's not- tonight's
but I'm
not the
not
night.
open to
Yeah, yeah.
furloughs.
well, if
No, I
you-
don't want to hurt McConnell either. You know,
I can't
was,
vote for this tonight personally,
I respect that,
but we got to double down and get this stuff figured
But,
out and keep working.
but we can't furlough our minimum wage people.
and
Well,
what are we going to do when push comes to shove and we don't have a plan when our complete enrollment goes to 10% of what it was 2 years ago? What will we do? Is there a plan?
I guess I
Yes.
resent the fact that you think that we don't have a plan. I'm going to speak up here
I
because
think
the
you should share it.
The vice presidents meet every other week. We work on budget. We work on enrollment. Our folks are working really, really hard on enrollment. This is a year that nobody has planned for. We are doing everything that we can to manage our enrollment and our budget based on what's happening to us with COVID. And I'm frustrated that you think that we're just sitting around doing nothing, because we aren't. You ask Lori Winningham. Lori Winningham has just in the last couple of weeks gone through 70 budgets. She's gone through every one of her departmental budgets and looked at their recommendations, looked at their finances, and coalesced all of that information together. 70 budgets that just Lori has gone through. So when you think that we're not doing anything, I'm going to fight for my vice presidents and my associate vice presidents for the amount of work that they put in to try to make this all come together the right way.
And I think that's so great, Kim. I mean, I have no
well-
question that you do, and it certainly wasn't an insult because I'm questioning it. What I'm really questioning is what the overall plan is if things go completely down the toilet for this university. There's nothing that I would like better for this university to become, if it's not already, the best local two-year college there is. And that's what my goal would be. I am certainly not, despite some of the staff around here, I am certainly not anti-college or anti-advanced education. But my point being that for every full-time student, you have a certain amount of resources that you need. And our resources that we're furnishing those students should be declining with the student population unless we can level off, which we failed to do, no fault of anyone's, for the past several years. Now, that plan is, if you have a plan and you go over this with your vice president, assuring me and the board members that there is a plan is not what I'm looking at. You know, if you have to go to executive session and say, look, this is our plan. We have tier 1 employees, we have tier 2, we have tier 3, we have tier 4, and here are the assigned staff for every overhead amount for every employee or every student that we have. You should have all that. And if we have to go in executive session to review all that, yes, I want to make sure as a trustee that that is in place and that we do have a plan. And I have no doubt that you're all working very hard. What I'm looking for is, I guess, some kind of reassurance that the college is going in the right direction, that we aren't good with it. We don't go bankrupt, that if enrollment continues to decline, we have an actual plan. And I, for one, would like to see that plan.
So you think that the $3 million reduction in our budget was not part of that plan to manage enrollment decreases the way we planned on fewer credit hours? That $3 million decrease in our budget was that very thing. We were planning on reductions in enrollment. And
Since
so
I don't know how you do that algorithmically, I don't know how you plan that, I don't know how you reduce it, and that's not something that's been shared, then, you know, I can't have confidence in something I don't know anything about. Yes, you are the president and you have the total responsibility of all this, but ultimately we have the responsibility of the resources of this college. And I'm not feeling really comfortable when I can't get basic information. I would like nothing
What information
better.
have you not gotten,
Okay,
Julie?
now, if you want to get into a fight, I guess we can do it.
No,
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 we
no,
don't.
we're not going
I
to do
want
that.
to know what information you haven't gotten.
Okay, let me give you a for instance. For instance, Mr. County Manager Will was emailed today after Shelby and I talked about some of the discrepancies. First thing he did was email you back. Well, I guess that's okay. We weren't trying to hide anything, but on the other hand, we want to be able to have a line of communication at the levels that we see necessary. For instance, when I had not received any of the policies that I had asked for early on in the game, we're talking the first quarter of the year, and you decided to put them all on SharePoint, I couldn't access. So I called ICI because as a trustee, I should be able to go in there and view those policies. There's no copies being demanded. There's no time being demanded. Hand me the file. I will look through it. I will see what I need to see, and then you can have it back. But no, they call you. Is it okay? Can you take care of this? Can you do this? You know, I think this SharePoint thing is just something that, honestly, this is my view as an IT person. My view as an IT person is further control the information. And it's too bad because every time I get on there, or if I get on there, everything's logged. How long I look at something is logged. You know, all of that is a trail, and I don't like being tracked. So if I wanted to go down there and view those policies, you asked me for an example, this is the prime one. That is the one thing that I wanted to do this year, is view those policies in paper myself, not on SharePoint. And then if I had questions, I could make a note and ask you. It was not really my intent to copy, wasn't really my intent to pass them around Butler County. I just wanted to view them, but I still haven't been able to view them. And this is December. And I didn't think that was a lot to ask, but apparently it was.
Well, they're all.
Julie, everybody else has
Yeah,
got
they're
those.
all on
There's
SharePoint.
3,000
Have you viewed them?
pages. There's 3,000
Can I get the
pages of
SharePoint? Yeah, I
insurance.
finally
Have you
can.
viewed them?
I haven't viewed them because I don't feel the need to. I don't feel the need to look
Okay,
at.
well, I do, and I can't view
Insurance
them, and
policy.
I've tried several times. So I
Mr.
guess what I'm gonna have
Chairman,
to ask
I
is
believe we're way off task here. I'd
Mr.
like to call
Young
the
to make an
question,
appointment.
please.
If you
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
mind
think
having
we're
them on
getting
that
way
for me.
off track here.
I
Let's
can
call
make
the
my
question.
comment.
There's too much
Whoa,
conversation
whoa,
here.
whoa. The motion that's pending before us right now is the approval of the fall budget update. The motion before us right now has nothing to do with your access to information, what you've got or what you'd like to have. That's a whole different matter. You can send an email to Kim or to I. I'll look into it. Everyone will look into it. We'll try to take care of it, but that's not what we're here for right now. I'm tired of the insults. I'm tired of the gripes. The motion's pending. Is there any
You
further
asked.
discussion about approving the updated budget?
I would just like to say my angle on this is, I just lost my train of thought. That's amazing. When I see before, like with the Hardin Data Center and buying the bus for the athletes and buying the welding table without even just only one bid, I don't see, an effort to save as much money as possible. So it gives me pause when this is just thrown back in with cash. So that's where I'm coming from.
I totally understand where you're coming from.
yeah,
I
I'm
think
just-
everybody on the board understands where you're coming from. You don't like some of the day-to-day management decisions that are made that we've delegated to the college.
Well,
You can make
I would
your,
like to multiple bids at a minimum, and that would show a seriousness of, like, if the county or next door to us sells a Lamborghini, or we could buy a Porsche from the state over, our guys don't need to necessarily drive a Lamborghini of a welding table right now. Porsche is better than what we have, and would save 30 grand, 30 grand, whatever. But that's just where I'm coming from.
again, it's the day-to-day operations, I think, that you have some objection to. I agree with you that we need to look
30
at
grand
those things
here, 100
closely.
grand there.
Let me
adds up to
finish,
a lot.
let me finish. And we are looking at those things. And I've been on the board for 7 years, and every time there's been something that I don't like, I question and find out about it. And the end result is when I get the information on it, it was properly vetted and they had good reasons for doing what they were doing. And it went to a vote. Now, you can disagree, I can disagree, Lance can disagree, Julie can disagree about the purchase of any one item. And I understand that, and you need to make it known. That's appropriate. That's why we're here when these issues come up, especially when they're board action items. But that's just your opinion. It still goes to majority vote of the board. I understand you may not like the way it operates, just like Julie doesn't like the way that information is delivered to her. Those are separate issues. I get it. But the motion that's pending right now before us is the approval of the update. You've pointed out your dissatisfaction, what you don't like about it. You think more should be done. Are there any other questions for Kent or anyone else we need to address with respect to the motion that's now pending?
Has the motion been made?
Yes, and
Motion's been
second.
made and we have a second.
Thank you. I lost track.
Right. Well, if there's no further discussion, then let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
No.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
No.
passes 4-2.
Moving on to the next board action item, which is as personnel matters, acceptance of the retirement of Melody. I'll probably pronounce
Chody,
this wrong.
Chody,
Chody.
Chody,
Choked.
Chody.
How do you pronounce
I
that?
sort of two
Choate.
different ways. Is it Chode or Chody?
Well, I say Choate. Lori Winningham can help us here.
Okay, it is
Yeah.
Melody
Whoa,
Chode.
whoa, whoa. We need to have a motion to
Oh,
approve
sorry.
first. Do I have a motion?
So
to
moved.
approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, go ahead.
I would just like to say a few words about Melody. Melody has been a 30-year math instructor at Butler. She started back in the August of 1991. I was hired the following year, so I've worked most of my years here at Butler with Melody. I served in the math department with her and have always known her to be, in some sense, a true mathematician. She has a true love for mathematics, for solving theorems, for passing on that love of mathematics to students. Some of her students have experienced her writing songs about mathematics and having them sing them during class. So I will miss her, and we wish her the best as she goes on to retirement.
Okay, any further comment, questions of any sort or discussion on the motion that's now pending? There being none, I'll call for a roll call.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
And moving on to the next board action item, the acceptance of the retirement of Adrian.
Adnan.
Adnan.
Adnan Paz.
Even my glasses aren't working.
Yeah.
good. Go ahead. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any comment?
I would just like to say a few words about Adnan as well. He is another mathematics professor here at Butler. He also has taught some engineering courses, statics, engineering concepts, those kinds of things. Again, he was hired in August of 1991, and his retirement date matches that of Melody. They were hired in the same year. I was fortunate enough as a new mathematics instructor myself to share an office with Adnan initially in El Dorado and then later at Andover. So he has been a wonderful colleague, mentor, and friend to me throughout the years, and I will certainly miss working with him as well.
Okay, any further comment or questions about?
When do we place those employment ads in the paper or through the colleges asking for
They have been
replacement?
posted already. I know that Shannon Covert is working through review of the applicants, and I believe they have selected some individuals for interviews. I do not know if all those interviews have been completed at this point.
They are.
And they teach, Lori, don't Melody and Adnan both teach calc and some of those upper level differential equations and some of the upper level classes, correct?
Yeah, particularly Adnan has always taught differential equations. He's taught the engineering statics course. And those are courses that we do struggle to find adjuncts to staff. We did cut a math position in this year's budget. When Susan Pfeiffer retired, we did not replace that position. And I know that Shannon has had a really hard time finding qualified adjuncts to staff everything.
Okay, any other questions? All right, call for roll call vote.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
passes unanimously.
Moving on to the next board action item, acceptance of retirement of Robert Ray. I can actually pronounce that. Do I have a motion to?
So moved.
Second. Okay, any comment?
Yes, I would like to say a few words about Robert Ray as well. Robert has worked in one of our computer programming areas. He has not been here as long as Adnan and Melody. He started in 2002. And we are currently reviewing that position, trying to determine if we can find qualified adjuncts. Robert has always had a strong commitment to helping students learn programming. And I know my conversations with him, he talks about things that I know nothing about. And I have a real appreciation for him helping prepare our students for the IT industry.
Any other questions, comments? Call for roll call vote. Please.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
it passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Call for roll call vote, please.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Consent agenda. We're going to discuss this too.
No, consent agenda is the consent agenda. We've
I
talked
know.
about
Are we
this a
going to
number of
discuss it
times.
after the motion and the second?
It's a consent agenda.
I understand that, but I have some questions.
It's the consent agenda, and a motion's been made and seconded.
And the roll started.
And the roll started. And I think the roll's to you.
Okay, then I am going to vote no. And the reason is because I believe that the minutes are incorrect. So, and when I went to review the meeting didn't all seem to be there online. So I couldn't really make the kind of corrections that I needed to make. But I think that there should have been some corrections, especially anything that's grammatical really needs to be addressed. So that's all the comments that I have. So I would vote no.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
passes 5-1.
Any supplemental information? Tim, anything you want to discuss?
No changes in the key performance indicators that start on page 54. We'll probably have some updates, I think, in February is maybe the next round. We have a number of the key performance indicators that we've done internally on our strategic plan. Those are updates on different priorities that you see each month. And please note on 69 is the statement of revenues and expenditures. 71, a thank you note from Jackie. You know her, she lost one of her sons a month or so ago. So nice note from Jackie. And then calendar of activities, looking ahead. Look at all of those games, man, and things going on. So we'll see how many of those we get through that
Don't get
stay on the schedule, that don't get postponed or canceled.
Cancel.
And on page 54, it was a month or two ago, I don't remember which one. You said Esam was going to get together with us and go over those new revised numbers.
Well,
at
yeah,
some point.
I'll make a note. He's just sent me an email today and said that we would have updated, they'll be updated, he thought in February. Do you want to do these now or you want to wait until February?
I can probably wait till February. It's just, the question I had asked a couple months ago was going to be addressed by him here soon, but I guess February's.
Okay,
Or
let me
see
touch
what he
base.
thinks. And
let
I
me
still
touch-
need a copy of this paper.
Let me touch base with him. You didn't you get that copy?
I think it's in SharePoint. I am 90% sure I can put it in.
I know you, I think you did.
If it's not there, let me know.
I
and I'll
thought you
just-
I
emailed
didn't-
it to
I didn't
them.
look in SharePoint for it. I was expecting just an email like previous.
Well, I
they
thought
got
I
it.
emailed you from.
What was
We'll-
So if you could
we'll
just
double check.
What
I
was
just-
it, Shelby?
Well, he won an award for a paper he wrote, and I wanted to read
Oh,
it, so I didn't think to look.
yeah.
But I would rather have
I
it
thought
just an
you
email
emailed
or.
it to him. But
I'll look
we'll
again.
check.
I'll look
Okay,
and see.
I could have missed it. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, if it pleases the court, I'd like to move that we adjourn for the evening.
Okay, well, we have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
unanimous.
Thank you for my Christmas gift, everyone. I appreciate that. That's nice.
Thanks for the.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So
If you
we're